My name is Harold Thompson, and I'm 78 years old now. You know, when the house is quiet like this, late evening, just the tick of the old clock in the hallway and the faint hum of the fridge, I find myself thinking back over the years, and the thing that keeps coming up isn't pride in what I built or the deals I closed. It's a kind of gentle ache for all the time I spent convinced that success was something you could count, weigh, frame on a wall. If someone had told my younger self that the real measure wasn't in the achievements piling up behind me, I might have breathed easier, laughed more freely, held the people I loved a little closer before they slipped further away. I was born in 1947 in a narrow, terraced house on a cobbled street in Salford. The air always carried the smell of coal smoke and damp brick. My father left before dawn for the engineering works, came back after dark with black lines under his fingernails that never quite washed out. He didn't talk much about his days, he just did them. My mother kept the house spotless, mended clothes, stretched every penny. They were good people, solid, but I watched my father's shoulders round year by year and decided early that steady wasn't enough for me. I wanted to stand taller than the factory gates. School wasn't my favorite place. I was restless, always looking out the window toward the city skyline, but I was quick with numbers. At 16, I left with a handful of O-levels and started night classes in bookkeeping while working days as a clerk in a small wholesale firm. That's where I first tasted the thrill of closing a sale. A customer who'd been on the fence suddenly said yes because of something I'd said. The commission was small, but the feeling was huge. I thought, this is how you get ahead. This is how you become somebody. By 20, I'd moved to a bigger firm in Manchester proper, selling industrial supplies. Cold calls, train journeys to factories in Leeds and Birmingham, nights in cheap hotels writing up orders. I got good at reading people, knowing when to push, when to listen. Promotions followed steadily. Sales rep to area manager at 25, then regional at 28. The company gave me a Ford Cortina, a petrol allowance, a tie that actually meant something. I felt the shift. People treated me differently. Waiters lingered a second longer. Colleagues straightened when I entered a room. Margaret came into my life at 23. She was training as a nurse at the infirmary. We met at a dance in the church hall. Awkward, really, me in a suit too new, her in a blue dress she'd made herself. She had this calm way about her, like she'd already seen enough of life's mess to not be rattled by much. We married a year later in a small register office, just family and a few friends. No big fuss. I promised her the world, or at least a better version of it than we'd grown up with. James arrived when I was 26, Michael at 28. They changed everything and nothing at the same time. I kept climbing. National sales director by 35. The salary jumped. We moved to a detached house in Cheshire with a proper garden and a driveway. I told myself it was all for them. The private schools, the foreign holidays, the safety net I never had. I'd come home after 9 p.m., eat reheated dinner alone at the kitchen table, peek into their rooms to see them sleeping. I'd stand there a moment, thinking I was doing right by them. Margaret would be folding laundry or reading a magazine. She'd look up and smile, tired but genuine. "Long day?" she'd ask. "Worth it," I'd say, and I believed it. But there were cracks I pretended not to see. James's first school play. I missed it because a client in Newcastle needed FaceTime. I sent a bouquet to the classroom. The teacher read my card aloud. James never said he minded, but years later he told me he kept looking at the empty seat where I was supposed to be. Michael begged me to come to his Cub Scout camp. I promised I'd make one weekend. A merger negotiation came up instead. I sent him a new sleeping bag. He thanked me politely. Those little substitutions added up, quiet as dust settling. I pushed harder. Vice President at 45. CEO of the UK arm at 52. The office overlooked the canal. I had a secretary who screened my calls, a parking spot with my name on it. Newspapers ran a profile, from Salford streets to boardroom heights. I cut it out, framed it. Margaret hung it in the hallway where guests would see it. We took trips, 2 weeks in Majorca, then Florida, later Italy. Photos show us smiling on beaches, in piazzas. In most of them I'm checking my BlackBerry or looking half-present. Margaret's smile is softer in the later ones. The boys grew up. James studied engineering, moved to Sydney for a job with an oil company. Michael went into teaching, married a local girl, had 2 daughters. Visits became events planned months ahead. Phone calls were catch-ups, not everyday chatter. I told myself it was normal. Children leave, build their own lives. But deep down, I knew I'd helped push them toward independence earlier than necessary. Retirement hit at 65. The ceremony was polished, toasts, a montage of photos, a gold watch I still wear sometimes. I walked out the revolving doors, and the world kept spinning without me. The first weeks felt like holiday. I played golf 3 times a week, joined a gardening club, read history books I'd never had time for. Then the novelty wore thin. Days stretched long. I'd sit in the study staring at the shelves of awards and wonder why none of them warmed the room. Margaret and I had time now, real time. We walked the lanes near the house, made slow meals together, watched old films. But habits die hard. We'd spent decades orbiting each other. Me at the center of my career, her holding everything else steady. Conversations sometimes felt careful, like we were afraid of saying the wrong thing after so long. Saying very little. We still loved each other. We just didn't always know how to fill the quiet. Then came the diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer. Advanced. The consultant was kind but direct. Months, perhaps a year with treatment. Everything stopped. I cleared my calendar permanently. I drove her to every appointment, sat beside her during infusions, learned to brew ginger tea the way she liked it to settle her stomach. Nights I slept in the chair by her bed so I'd hear if she needed anything. We talked then, really talked. About the early days, the mistakes, the things we'd never said. She told me she'd always been proud, but she'd missed me even when I was in the same house. I told her I was sorry, that I'd thought providing was the same as being there. She squeezed my hand. You did your best, love. We all do. She slipped away on a soft April morning 3 years ago. The house hasn't felt the same since. I kept her armchair exactly where it was, her gardening gloves still on the hook by the back door. I walked the garden paths we laid together, pull weeds she used to fuss over, let the roses grow a bit wild now because she'd have liked that. Looking back, I see how I measured everything wrong. Success wasn't the turnover figures or the corner office. It was never the headlines. It was in the bedtime stories I didn't read, the Saturday mornings I spent at the office instead of at football matches, the evenings Margaret spent alone while I chased the next target. Achievements are loud for a while, then silent. What echoes is whether the people around you felt seen, held, loved in the ordinary moments. I meet other retirees at the community center coffee mornings or on the bench by the canal. One chap, Frank, 81, says he regrets waiting too long to travel. He and his wife planned a big trip for when the mortgage was cleared, but arthritis arrived first. Another, Eileen, wishes she'd claimed her state pension later. Taking it early seemed sensible then, but the extra years of higher payments would have eased her mind now. A man named George talks about the boat he bought at 60, always dreamed of it, only to find maintenance ate his savings and he barely used it. Most of us carry some version of the same quiet regret. We spent too much energy on things that didn't last and not enough on the people and moments that do. These days I live smaller, slower. I ring James every Sunday, no matter what. We talk about his work, his kids' school plays, the weather in Sydney. When Michael brings the granddaughters over, I sit on the floor and build Lego towers without glancing at the clock. I volunteer twice a week at the food bank, sorting tins, chatting with people who come in. It isn't glamorous, but it feels useful in a way board meetings never did. The garden's a bit overgrown, I don't mind. Margaret would tease me about it, say I've finally learned to let things be. If you're younger, still in the rush meetings stacking up, inbox overflowing, Weekends, half work, stop for a second when you can. Look at the people in your life. Really look. Ask what they need from you, not what you think they need. Put the phone face down at dinner. Go to the school concert even if it means rescheduling a call. Tell your partner you're proud of them, not just of what you're building together. Because time doesn't warn you when it's running low. I sit here now with my tea gone cold, watching rain tap the window, and I don't feel bitterness anymore. Just clarity. True success isn't measured in what you accumulate or what the world writes about you. It's in the small, repeated choices to show up, to listen, to stay. It's the warmth that lingers in a room long after the lights are off. That's what I wish I'd understood at 35, at 45, at 55. But understanding it now, at 78, still counts for something. If I could write a note to the man I was, I'd say, slow down sooner, love louder. Measure by the hearts around you, not the ladder beneath your feet. The view from here is quieter, smaller, and somehow much clearer. And that, I think, is enough. What do you think? Comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories like this.